Hi there, good afternoon. So the property market in Northern Ireland is going to reopen next Monday, the 15th of June. That is a very interesting date for us. I think that's a good sign because that represents the 11th anniversary of the creation of Armstrong Solicitors in Newton Abbey. Aptly enough, we opened in the absolute eye of the property crash storm, and we started from scratch with essentially no work. So I think I have to take it as a good sign that the property market is reopening on our 11th birthday. This is a very interesting document. It's something that I'm pleased to say that the Law Society of Northern Ireland had a little bit of input into one of the earlier drafts, and there are a number of takeaways. I suppose the first thing I would say is that the department's advice is in plain English, and I suppose anyone who is involved in the property industry really needs to read this and take it to heart. It goes hand in hand. The guidance or the advice itself, I suppose, really emphasizes a couple of things. The need for flexibility is the main thing. The fact that we are not back to normal, and the fact that there is obviously still a COVID pandemic ongoing, and that practicalities and things need to change. In terms of the flexibility in the process, that dovetails very nicely in with the Law Society of Northern Ireland's new coronavirus special conditions. This is again something that's been drafted over the last week or so, and it's something that I'm going to maybe go into in a wee bit more detail as we in this series of videos over the next couple of days and the next week maybe, just to sort of, and what I'm trying to do here is try to sort of give you an idea of the things that a conveyancing solicitor and a business owner needs to think about in terms of getting back to the office in some format, and how we actually transact conveyancing cases, because and even the advice itself says this, it's not necessarily back to normal. The legal process is different. Let me give you a few quick takeaways for today, and we'll do a couple each day. I suppose the first one is that this advice applies to everyone, and specifically actually includes house builders. I've always felt that developers always find themselves or always feel that they are somewhat removed from the normal conveyancing process, and that they can basically dictate the pace of everything in the transaction. And that is something which unfortunately has been reinforced over the last couple of weeks, where the developers were allowed to open before the rest of the property market, and already a lot of our clients and ourselves and my staff are under a huge amount of pressure to complete things that really should not be completed, or to get into contracts where simply our clients are not in a position to do so. So I think it's a very welcome development, no pun intended, that this advice specifically says that this advice is intended for everyone, including house builders. As I say, the other big thing that it really pushes is the fact that we're not back to normal. This document does not represent a return to normality. It says that the process for finding and moving into a new home will be very different, and everyone essentially involved in the house moving process needs to do flexibility. That's not what they say, that's just the way I've just put it. What does that mean? Well, I suppose the first thing it means is that we should not and cannot complete every single house move immediately. And I can't help but think that there's going to be a perception that is exactly what is going to happen. I've said that we opened 11 years ago in the depth of the property crash and recession, and it became very clear very quickly that lots of members of the profession who didn't specialise in conveyancing had a bit of a rattle at conveyancing during the boom times, and it was clear that things were missed, and in fact there are long-term implications for that, even 10 decade down the line. And I suppose from reading the professional indemnity updates that we get every year, along with our renewal news every sort of September, October, it has been pointed out pretty much annually that conveyancing claims are still washing through the insurance market, and this is something which we absolutely cannot repeat. I think that the insurance market is probably hardening in any event, and if there's any suggestion that we're going to go back to the bad old days where solicitors just complete everything going because they're under pressure or because clients or other people just shout loudly enough, the industry simply will not survive in its current form, and the insurance industry will certainly not support us. So it is fundamentally important. There are going to be bottlenecks in this process. All of the businesses, all of the offices are coming back at different stages. I suspect for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks perhaps, people will still largely, who have been on furlough, will probably largely be on furlough with some exceptions. Statutory agencies are coming back, court offices are going to come back as well, land registry is back this week, albeit I given to understand with a slightly lower, smaller staff, presumably until they can get, like everyone else, social distancing measures in place. So there are going to be bottlenecks in the system, and that's something which is going to be really important for everyone to understand. And again, we emphasize the need for flexibility. I suppose as well, there are definitely going to be some backlogs of work, no two ways about that. This is not a normal situation. I will talk about the coronavirus special conditions as well early next week. There are basically 13 coronavirus events which will allow a completion to be delayed, and it's really important that we're clear that this doesn't really allow a party to walk away, which I think was always probably the fear. It basically just allows the completion date to be put back if a coronavirus event occurs. As I say, there are 13 of those. I will go into them in a bit of detail next week, because I think it does really just give you the idea of the sort of things that we are thinking about. It ranges from everything from coronavirus diagnosis or symptoms on the day of completion right the way through potentially to another government lockdown. The other thing I'm just looking at very quickly is that the English Law Society has produced sector-specific guidance for conveyancers, and also sort of draft guidance for potential clients as well, in terms of what they need to be aware of. And again, our guidance is very clear of the things that we need to tell our clients, that things aren't back to normal, that there's a risk that things may not complete at the exact time that they wanted, that there's an absolute obligation that we have to have flexibility in the process, all of those things. So as I say, I'm going to go through those as well. The great thing is there is a huge amount of information and support and guidance to help us all get back as the property market reopens, both as business owners and as lawyers, and for anyone else watching, property professionals, tradesmen. They're all mentioned in here, they're all in this document, and there's other more sort of general advice for reopening offices and things like that. So as I say, what we need to do as much as possible is actually take the advice on board and read it and work together. Certainly, I think I'll have a busy weekend getting some stuff together, and as I say, these are sort of the first takeaways on the Department for Communities advice. As I say, flexibility is key. This is not back to normal, and not everything is going to complete immediately. So as I say, those are your three for today. I'm quite excited about what is coming. I think there's going to be a lot of activity in the market, and to that I will bow to the economists who are appearing on LinkedIn locally and have a much better insight into things than I have. So as I say, relatively positive today. We're hoping that there is a guarded return to the new level of normality. And as ever, thank you for your comments and your likes and your direct messages. If you are a practitioner and you want to ever chat about any conveyancing matters, please don't hesitate to give me a shout. I'm more than happy to put our heads together and see if we can come up with any solutions for any issues. So thank you again, have a great weekend, and I'm off to do some homework.